to the Rise of the Young podcast. Today, we got the homie Dan Dasilva, from felony to seven-figure entrepreneur at 22 years old. Dan, he's a 22-year-old e-commerce entrepreneur, and like I said, seven-figure earner, and he's helped over 250,000 people get started in e-commerce and runs one of the biggest e-commerce training platforms online. So that being said, Dan, welcome. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. It's always great to be with like-minded people.
For sure, man. Yeah, so for my audience that kind of doesn't know you, I'd love to just start off with the question, like, who is Dan and how did your journey start?
All right, so who is Dan's probably the coolest person you'll ever meet on earth. So no, I'm kidding. So basically, I started. Oh goodness. Okay, so I got into e-com because of the fact that I actually sold a ton of drugs when I was young, in high school. So it's not like I was super young. It was a few years back. So I got started selling drugs, and it's funny because everybody who talks about crypto now, I actually was involved in crypto buying Bitcoin because I was using Silk Road to get SR 1.0 to actually get all of my drugs delivered to my best friend's house where I lived at the time.
Wow.
And it was funny because I was buying Bitcoin. It was like just peaking, I think like $100, $200, something like that. Like people were freaking out. And I just find that pretty crazy. So that's kind of where I started. I ended up selling drugs, and I was living with my best friend. I was emancipated. So I wasn't living with my parents. I was living at my best friend's house. They gave me a room in their house. And I heard, so I was sitting in my bed and I heard a knock, and it was literally just something like, and I was like, I don't want to hang out right now. I'm busy. Like, I think I was just sitting there reading a book or something. Mm-hmm. And then all I heard was, I was like, yo, if I come into the door, I'm gonna slap one of you. I literally said that. I screamed, and all I heard was the bang got louder. So I go like all angry to my door. I'm like, all right, it's time. Like somebody's getting hit. Like I told you guys I don't want to hang out. And next thing I know, there's dogs, there's cops, detectives everywhere. And it was the most quiet thing ever. I see my best friend. Well, he's actually downstairs. I can see downstairs two stairways, and I can see down past the rails. And there he is, just like super quiet on the couch. And they're just telling him to be quiet and whatnot. And they basically tell me, put your hands on the wall. They go through everything. They seized my best friend's house, his parents' house. So everything got seized, and I ended up going to jail that night. And they found. It was like straight out of a movie. They sat me down in a room, and they started like black and white photos of me selling drugs, like you see in a movie, the stereotypical, we have evidence of you doing this. Yeah. And it's funny because the evidence that they have, I was only robbed one time ever, and it was at gunpoint. It was that night that they were taking all the photo evidence. Okay. And I just found it so wild that out of all the evidence they can use, the only thing they ever had was the only time I was robbed at gunpoint. Okay. And so basically, the house was seized. I ended up sitting in jail. Next thing you know, my bail was set to X amount of money. I don't remember at this point, but my bail was set, and then one of the cops came in. He opened it. It was before I got transferred to a county jail, so it was the municipal jail before I got transferred to county and all of that. But I never ended up going to county because my bail was posted. And the I guess the cop, the detective opened the door. He said, you're free to go. And I was like, what? He's like, I have a message for you though. I was like, what's the message? He's like, your father said you can come home. And it's like, I didn't talk to my parents. And just to get that out of the blue, I was like, oh my, they've been watching this whole time. Yeah. So kind of like a bad dog with his tail between his legs, I went right back home. It was freezing out, and I was in shorts and a t-shirt. And I walked home. It was about 1.5 miles, I'd say. I give it about a mile. And it was freezing. So I was there. I was home. Ended up back in my parents' basement. And they helped me pay for a lawyer. And, I think like $40,000, $50,000 later, it was two hefty charges of two felony charges of possession distribution. So this all comes back to how I got started into e-com, is because I needed to pay my parents back. I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? So I ended up going on a forum, meeting with somebody from Israel, out of all places. And he, I think it was a hack forums. We met on the hack forums, and he had like servers, and he was selling VPNs or something like that. He was selling something. And because he was like 14 at the time, he wasn't allowed to actually have money in his PayPal, and I was above age. So I was able to move his money around legally when he couldn't. Plus, he was in Israel, so for him to even have a PayPal, I don't even know if he can because of where he is geographically. So we kind of got started, and the whole e-commerce thing, it took off. I think the very first month, and in the very first month, not I think, but in the very first month, we went from, he started it up, and I learned all from him. He started up, he went from $0 to $500 the first day, and then 2 weeks in, he went to $1,000 a day. On the 31st day, scaled up the store big enough, and on the 31st day, he sold it for $30,000, and that was profit to him. So, or profit for us at that point. And that's kind of where the e-commerce journey got started. Unfortunately, he's fallen off. He actually made a lot of money, and then he unfortunately went to Thailand, blew it all, got involved with the wrong people, and I progressed from there. I kept growing, and I got a mentor, and just became somebody that people turn to in the marketplace for advice. I've worked with countless well-known people, so it's been quite a journey, that's for sure. So that's kind of my background.
For sure. That story is I didn't even know that about you, man. That's super dope how you've gone from something. And I feel like a lot of people just, whenever they're in that negative standpoint, they're always they think they can't get out. So regarding your situation towards the next question, I know how you said that's how you discovered e-commerce and that's how you got into it. But what was the biggest pivot point from that situation to now doing your own thing, creating your own brand in that sense? What was the pivoting point for you?
So the pivoting point would have to be, well, I didn't like my parents' basement. That was for starters. But my pivoting point was my girlfriend at the time. I wanted I envisioned a life where everybody that I was surrounded by, whether it was friends, parents, girlfriend at the time, and it was more so for her, I wanted to become great. So, and I don't want to put money as the aspect, because I feel like too many people, when you put connotations of money, when you're wealthy and you look at, if you're poor and you look at somebody wealthy, we're not poor, but something, you're not well off as a wealthy person. Money's this sacred thing that nobody really talks about. Yes. So when I mention, wealth and whatnot, my idea of it isn't Warren Buffett, Bill Gates status. My idea of it is nice car, house, never having to have my spouse work, kids are taken care of. That's my idea. And that's what I want, what I was working for, and I'm still working for. Okay. And now it's changed a little bit for legacy building more than anything, where I don't want to just make a lot of money and then die and then that's it. I want to, make a lot of money, but do something really cool in the process of doing it. So the biggest factor, back to your question, would have to be, I was doing it for us. And then the hardest part was that I think I lost focus in what I was doing it for, and then started really looking at the whole money thing. That's why, in a lot of people, when they see me just in public events, whatnot, they ask me a lot of money questions. It's never lifestyle, because I nailed down one part of my life, which is making money. But I kind of realized later on that, or even now at this point, that you can make so much, you can have everything and have nothing. So, sure. So I guess to really black and white answer to your question is, I did it to achieve a certain lifestyle. I got to a certain lifestyle, but the people who I was doing it for aren't there with me. I don't have the original friends. I don't have original girlfriends. So the vision changed, kind of more clarity now as to where I want to go.
For sure. So when it comes to e-commerce in general, I know tons of people listening to this podcast, as well as your viewers as well. Some people either just started, some people are having success, but for the people that are just starting off, what's the initial starting point that you'd want to give to yourself, as well as the people that are listening that are just getting started off in e-commerce?
The initial starting point is, and it's going to sound so cliche, but it's more so learning as much as you possibly can, and then scaling out, whether it's to a mastermind, whether that's buying a course, whether it's investing. You need to invest somewhere. Okay. You can't escape it, whether or not it's investing into a course that teaches you about Shopify, or investing in a mastermind about Shopify, investing into Shopify itself, investing it doesn't have to be money as well. It can be time. Okay, investment comes in a lot of different ways. I never had a lot of money when I started. Actually, I had no money when I started. I was negative around $40,000-$50,000 when I started. My investment was time. And that's what I had a lot of. So I invested my time to figure it out. If you can sit there and invest your time, and then eventually what's going to happen is you're going to figure out ways to get money. Somehow, some way, you're going to make money. It's inevitable. You sit there for days, weeks, months, years on end. If you're just twiddling your thumbs playing video games, nothing's going to happen. But if you're looking, if you're persistent and you're trying to go out there, and let's just say you need $1,000 to start and you have no money, go out there, learn everything you can. Your skill set that you learn, okay, no matter what it is, whether it's creating a store, you can go to like a Facebook group or Upwork and then create a store for somebody for $1,000. Guess what? You have the knowledge, you just don't have the money to do it yourself, so you do it for someone else. You get paid. Once you get paid, you do it for yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of people miss that big factor, that big picture is, I don't have enough money, I guess I can't do this. No, you can. You're just being a lazy guy.
For sure.
So yeah, that's my biggest tip is invest in yourself. Because the biggest form of ROI ever is yourself. You can put as much money you want anywhere. You'll never get the same returns as you would investing into yourself. The very first thing I ever invested in was a yacht mastermind. It was hosted by the owner of Zappable, and Zappable is just a mobile app. It's not like huge.
Yeah.
But the person who was on there that I wanted to meet was Com Mirza. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
So I've met with Com multiple amount of times.
Okay.
And that was the first time I met Com, and I spent $30,000 to get onto that mastermind for 3 days.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it wasn't worth it. I'm going to sit here and tell you I got what I needed. My goal was to get Com's brain. And that year, I think I made like 100 something thousand. The following year, it was like a 6x. It's like 600,000 because of what he taught me with automating, scaling up. And then I found other mentors that helped me, and then I just took his principles and just kept scaling. But I will admit that 30,000, it's not like I was making 600 when I invested the 30.
Yeah.
It was like 100 something thousand when I invested the 30. That's a pretty big chunk out of 100 something thousand. Yeah. So it's not like, I was rolling in the dough. I decided to take a chance, and that ROI was more than I could ever picture it would be worth. Yep. It opened up a lot of doors. And so yeah, I'm a big believer in self-investment, especially for sure. Because guess what? Unless you're willing to put in the time, you're not going to get any results. Unless you're willing to trade off time for money, then you need to trade money for time. It's one or the other.
100%. Dude, I tell people all the time about like the investment into yourself. So like for me, for example, I went to San Diego. I got invited to an event to speak. I wasn't paid to speak at all. And I feel like everyone listening, like I got this opportunity to go somewhere, whether that be an event, to speak in an event or whatever. I invested my money and my time to go there without the knowing what would come after it, sort of like you did. Like you knew you wanted to go there for something, because I knew all the people that were going to be there. Flew across the country at 16, first time ever going to Cali, met 4 or 5 people, and then a month later, from those people, I was getting flown out to LA like once a month to network, to grow with them, to talk about there's certain businesses that we were working on in a sense. But I just feel like a lot of people just don't have that risky mentality. Like you didn't know what you were going to get from that mastermind, but looking back, the puzzle makes sense, But like I feel like a lot of people don't have the outlook of like, they don't see a clear like vision looking straight, so they just hesitate, Yeah,
100%. And one thing you have to realize is that there's a lot of young people that follow us. There's a ton of young people. I'd say like 80% of the audience or 90% is super young. The way my current mentor tells me all the time is I'm a huge risk taker. I mean, if I make $1 million, I'll blow $1 million on like just like crypto, for example. I'll put like $900,000 in, and what happens then, right? Yeah. Here's the thing that you need to realize is as young kids, as we are, what's the worst thing if we lose it all? Where do we end up? You're going to end up at your mom's house. I'll end up in my mom's basement with what? With the resources we have right now. With the resources that I've built up. So the worst thing that's going to happen is you lose it all, but you still have you lose a bunch of money and then you restart. Guess what? It's part of the process. You just restart with all the resources you have. Now, if you're 40, 50 years old, 3 kids, a wife, a mortgage, and you need to put your kids through school, you make $1 million, damn it, you better keep $1 million. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's a big difference. And, I guess I'm really big into a lot of those kind of like quotes. And somebody told me, I don't remember what it was, but it was in our 20s, or not 20s, but in your youth, you trade your health for wealth.
Oh, I
And
know this
then
one.
and then once you get older, you kind of reverse it and then trade your wealth back for your health.
Yeah, and you'll spend all the wealth in the world to get back your health, but you'll sacrifice all your health to get the wealth, and then it just turns the table. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and that's so true, because I probably sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
If that, at times. There's days where I stay like 3 consecutive days, and it takes a toll on your body. But I know once I'm 30, 40 years old, life's going to start dwindling down. I need to get on the ball now. I mean, it's not like things are just going to happen randomly.
Yeah. For sure, man. So yeah, moving on to the next question. When it comes to your journey, you said like if you fail during the process, you just, like you said, if you're young, you can go back to your mom's house. So for you, what has been like the biggest failure? Because I know a lot of young entrepreneurs, they'll see the cars, the success, the traveling, and some people, like for me, for example, when I first started, it's like you get lost. And for me, I feel like the biggest failure was trying to do everything and not one thing. So for you, like what's been like your biggest failure, setback during your process after overcoming the initial the cops came to your house, all that stuff happened and had to make the money back? What's been like your biggest setback in that end?
So biggest setback, it would have to be focus. I'm all over the place. I have my hands in a lot of things. Some things you'd be like, wait, really? You're a part of that? So I have my skill set, and I know my skill set now. And I know that I can utilize my certain skill set in any market. But when I was really trying to find where I was, fitting in, my biggest pivotal falling point was the fact that I didn't remain focused. And you cannot become successful without focus. It's impossible. Literally, it's impossible. You cannot. And not having clear focus is going to be the reason why most people don't succeed. If you don't have focus, don't expect to succeed at all. And it's a harsh reality, and something that I had to get as well. And a lot of people say, oh, that's not true. I can be unfocused if I want. No, that's not true, because if you take a look, the most hungry people that I see are actually university entrepreneurs, people that are in college, in a university, and want to achieve something. They're dreamers, right?
Yeah.
But they're not action takers because they have this big freaking thing called school that's blocking them. And I'm not saying drop out of school, okay? I'm not saying that at all. But your focus you can't have your main focus being on building a company and then your other main focus passing school. You can't do it. It's again, focus is something you need. And Onyx Bengal, one of my current mentors right now, he yells at me all the time. He's like, focus, 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 focus. He's like, do what you're good at. Focus, focus, focus. And he's right. Focus is what was my biggest hindering point, and a hindering point for a lot of people.
Okay, for sure, man. Dude, that's fire, man. Because I feel like even for me, like I get all the time, because I'm still young. I'm 17, still in high school. But when it comes to like my initial starting point, like all the opportunities that people see online, all of the different people follow, I just felt like there's a lot of stuff to lose focus at. And then like that really just comes down to self-awareness, and like you have to really understand yourself before you try to go out there and build something magnificent. You have to really first kind of understand what you need to focus on because of your strengths, because of your talents and stuff like that. So when it comes to you and coming, like you said, you're 22, so you've been on your journey for how many years now? When it comes to the 3 tips that you would give to, like I said, we talked about earlier, giving it to someone in e-commerce, but just when it comes to your overall, if you had nothing today, what would yourself now want to know and give yourself if you had to restart everything?
Did you ever hear the story of 10 feet from gold?
Oh yeah. What's his name?
That is what I would tell myself.
Greg Reed.
Yep, that's exactly what I would tell myself in way back when.
Okay.
A lot of people fail and give up right when they're about to hit success.
Yep.
So, and that was, I actually read that in Think and Grow Rich, is I tell myself, you're 10 feet from gold. Keep on going. Persistence.
For sure.
Be persistent.
Yeah, I met Greg last year at the the event in San Diego, that was like one of the first people I met. And like I read his book after I got back, and the 3 Feet from Gold, that's definitely been a huge game changer for me for sure.
Yep.
So when it comes to like your entire story, wrapping up the interview, man, like when it comes to the e-commerce side in general, like tactical advice for people wanting to get into e-commerce, what would you give to someone that's like really, if they're like, dude, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing, I've tried this, I've tried that, what would you give to them as a practical thing for them to do?
Practical advice is build a brand, okay? Build something that people can relate to. So if you take a look at, let's just say, Loci bracelets, right? Loci, people look at it as, this random bracelet. Actually, it's not just a random bracelet. It's a story behind it. Any big brand has a story. And if you know how to build a brand properly, you can build a dropshipping store around an entire brand. Learn how to sell with stories. And you actually taught me this when you were here in Jersey with Instagram. And I never really put two and two together. You see, my strength is selling, whether that's through Facebook ads and on an e-com store, whatever it is. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you sell through your Instagram, you sell through social media, and I do it through advertising. I do it in a little bit of a different way, but it's all story-based and kind of building a brand. So it's all universal. And the practical advice is to go out there and really figure out from the start what you want the end goal to be, and then reverse engineer from the end goal. And I even said this in the video that we recorded on how people go out there and always keep going for the sale, like the new sale, not worrying about the customers they already got that either love them or hate them at that point. They either love them because the product is great or hate them because they forgot about them. Focus on the customers that you get. They're the ones that are going to be the ones that always keep coming back and purchasing from you.
Okay, perfect, dude. That's solid, man, because I feel like, especially a lot of people that are young, like they just, like you said, 3 feet from goal, they give up too early. They're not persistent. So that being said, man, from all the knowledge that you've gained, I know that you said 3 feet from goal, but do you have like 2 books that you'd recommend to someone listening as something for them to just take from you, man?
Oh yeah, Think and Grow Rich and How Successful People Think.
For sure, for sure.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and I think it's John C. Maxwell with How Successful People Think.
Okay. For sure, man. So, man, that being said, where can people learn more about you? Where they can info? I know that you're big on YouTube, man. So go ahead and let them know where they can find more stuff about you, man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you just go to YouTube, just type in Dan Dasilva, first channel there. Instagram, just type in Dan Dasilva. I'm on social media, Twitter as well. So you guys can just, if you really want a fast response, definitely just @ me on Twitter or just write a comment on Instagram, one of my images. You guys will be able to find me there rather quickly.
For sure. Well, boom. That being said, everyone, make sure you go check him out. All of his info will be in the links in the description. And that being said, guys, see, he talks about a lot of things in this interview, but like if you don't actually apply it and you're just listening passively, nothing's going to change. Like he said, it's all about what you do with it. And like I actually told my brother this last night. It's like, if you don't have money, you have time. But once you get money, you don't have time. So whichever standpoint you're in, focus on whether that be the time you have, and then and the same flip-flap, if you have money, focus on how you can diversify and make more in a sense. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the Rise of the Young podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you drop a review, leave a rating, send me a DM, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next episode.